Right. Tadse, welcome to the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, and Food Security webinar, where I'll be teaching you about our new iNaturalist project and how you can get involved. I'd like to quickly note some features on Zoom before we get started. Zoom has closed captions you can turn on, and if you're using screen reading, the chat will be active and you may want to adjust that in the settings. If you have any questions about accessibility options, please let us know in the chat. This webinar will be recorded and the transcript can be sent to you by request. I'm going to start us off with a prayer in Michif and then some good words that were gifted to us. Merci Créateur pour la nouche, pour la ma famille, pour la mes amis, pour la sati, pour la paix. Merci Créateur. Creator, give us strength, courage, and humility so that we may work with one mind. Make us humble and grateful. Help us to work together collectively, honoring elders as teachers so that we may prepare our youth for the future. Provide us with inspiration and direction so that we may build a path for MMBC within our homeland. Help us build strong Métis families so that we may ensure a strong and healthy Métis nation. Amen and merci. I acknowledge with gratitude and respect that I live and work on the Coquitlam traditional and ancestral unceded lands, including those parts that were historically shared with the Katzie and other Coast Salish people. If you'd like to type in the chat where you're calling in from, you can go to native-land.ca to find out whose traditional territory you live on. Tanse, Nia, Natasha, et métis nia, meno de famille si li real pele Beauregard. Hello, my name is Natasha and I'm Métis, and my family names are Rael and Beauregard. I am the Environmental Protection Coordinator for Métis Nation BC. Danielle is the Conservation Policies and Programs Manager to help support this webinar. If you have any questions in the chat, she will be monitoring it. And if you have any tech issues or you lose connection during the webinar and can't get back in, email Danielle, and she has added her email to the chat. We have some additional MMBC staff here tonight. Leona is the director of our ministry. Okay. Our ministry mandate is to connect Métis citizens to the natural environment and empower their voices for matters related to climate change, conservation, and food security. Our goal is to work towards having a healthy and thriving planet for both current and future generations to come. The new iNaturalist project, we will be connecting Métis citizens to both the land and each other as they share their observations with us. These observations are valuable for us to shape the future initiatives that align with our ministry mandate. Citizen science is a way to connect people to the land and build a community of nature-loving folks. This community contributes to the gathering of meaningful data for scientific research. By joining our iNaturalist events, you can learn about nature with other Métis citizens. We will also provide materials for self-guided walks, too. We created a project in iNaturalist to collect all the observations Métis citizens upload. Our ministry is excited we have this iNaturalist project up and running because it will allow us to see what citizens are observing on the land without needing a harvester card. By having Métis citizens join the project, we gain a better understanding of what programs they would like and what they're observing on the land. For example, if there's lots of invasives being reported, we might just want to do an invasive plant removal in that area. Or do communities want to participate in more in-person walks by using iNaturalist hosted by us? So what is citizen science? Let's dive into how to become a citizen science by using iNaturalist. At the end of this presentation, I'll be able to answer any questions you have about iNaturalist. We also have John Martin from Nature Vancouver here sitting in on this webinar. Thank you, John. He has lots of knowledge about iNaturalist, and he's helping me lead an in-person walk you can attend later this month. I'll expand more about this later in the presentation. So, citizen science is a way for people in the community to contribute to scientific research by uploading their pictures or sound recordings of their observations to organizations such as eBird and iNaturalist. The pictures of plants, animals, and fungi you upload to iNaturalist become a part of a global database that maps out where all these species live and helps scientists understand the biodiversity and changes happening in ecosystems. These changes can be driven by factors such as climate change, invasive species, habitat loss, and natural disasters. This picture is of a hummingbird observations in iNaturalist. The observations of the rufous hummingbird are especially important when they first start migrating back to Canada to help track changes to see if climate change impacts their migration timing. So how does iNaturalist work? It works by uploading pictures to the app for the AI to give suggestions of what species your observation could be based off for photo recognition software to figure out what it is based off of the location where it was observed. Then you get to compare your picture you took to other pictures of the species the AI is suggesting that might be based off of like your location. So if you take a picture of, say, for instance, this fireweed, right here on my screen, it will figure out where you are located and compare similar looking species that match where it's located. And so after you compare your photo to the different species it suggests, then you pick whatever species you think looks closest to your observation. And as you can see, I compared my fireweed photo to the suggestion and selected it. If you're unsure what to pick, you can pick the top suggestion it offers. Once you upload this observation, other citizen scientists on the app will confirm if you were correct in picking the right species. When 2 or more people agree with the species chosen, the observation becomes research grade. So what is research grade? When the observations become research grade, they get this little flag on the observation, which states that enough people have agreed on what species is present in the observation. You can see that more than 2 people have agreed on the fireweed observation, which brought it to research grade. And keep in mind that not all the observations you upload will become research grade if there's very subtle differences between the species and the pictures taken don't have enough angles of the plant or animal to differentiate the 2 species. Typically, only research grade observations are used in scientific studies, so it's best to get as many different angles of the plants and animals you take pictures of. If you're really good at identifying species from pictures or sound recordings, you will be able to help identify other people's observations on iNaturalist. This builds a little community of citizen scientists that you can become a part of. So how are these research grade observations used? You might be wondering, like, why are we caring so much if it's like research grade? Well, they're really valuable, and I'll let you know how. For starters, iNaturalist has this wonderful feature which allows anyone, including yourself, to filter out what observations you want to see on the map. These filters allow you to only download research grade observations if you're doing scientific studies. Additionally, there's filters for only downloading observations by specific users or even downloading observations from a certain project. With our MMBC project, we can download only observations from the project that we want to use for future programming, and I highly recommend you check it out and explore all the different filters available because it's just really cool to see what has been observed in your area. So here's an example of what you can do with the filters. Let's pretend I'm doing a study on frogs in the Fraser Valley area. I have selected a custom boundary near Harrison Hot Springs and Chilliwack. My goal is to see where all the Oregon-spotted frogs are located because they are a species at risk. The amount of observations help give me a general idea of what the population might be like. As you can see in this area, there's only 21 observations that are research grade. If you look closely, some of the blue markers on the map are faded circles rather than location pins. This is because the circles are obscured locations and do not accurately tell me that the spotted frog was found at that location. Even if the observation's obscured, it's still helpful for me to know how many observations in the general area have been observed. If I was going to try and take some more pictures of these spotted frogs, then I would be not going to any of the obscured locations. I would be going to the ones where there's the location pin. In contrast, for my study, if I want to see all the invasive frog species in the same area, I could filter it to have just the invasive species and then filter it for frogs. The two invasive frogs shown in this area are the green frog and the American bullfrog. As you can tell from the number of observations, there's almost 200 more observations of invasive frogs. This shows me that there's a lot more it's a lot more common to see invasive frogs rather than the at-risk Oregon spotted frog. This information could be really helpful for me to understand how invasive frog species may be impacting the native frog species in my research project. This is just one example of how iNaturalist can be used for identifying both endangered species and invasive species and how their interactions might harm the species at risk. So in addition to invasive frog species, there's also invasive plants and other invasives that might be targeted for removal. So if people upload observations of different invasive species, they may be targeted species for removal, where organizations such as Invasive Species Council of BC might be like, oh, well, you've spotted this invasive species there, let's go remove it. There's an additional feature after you upload your observations called annotations. It's not mandatory to add annotations, and you can only do it on the website after you've uploaded your observation. So people identifying observations on iNaturalist may also add annotations to your observations, and these annotations describe the state or presence of the animal or plant is in. So for my fireweed observation I showed earlier, I added the flowers value and the green leaves value. This helps map the plants when they're in bloom to help understand the phenology of the plant species. So phenology is the study of patterns and timing of the annual life cycles of plants and animals and other living things. By adding annotations to their observations, it helps with scientists researching the changes in phenology that could be related to climate change and other external factors. I've briefly talked about how iNaturalist works, but I'm going to help you understand how to add observations on your phone and on the website. Before you can upload anything on iNaturalist, you need to make an account. Pick a cool username and send us this cool username so we can add you to our project. You can email your username to the environment email or send it to us in the chat and I'll be able to add it to our project. The app is available for both iPhone and Android phones. The screenshots I have here are from an Android phone, so it might look slightly different for Apple. Apple is also launching a new version of the app, so keep in mind it might not look the same. However, both apps require the same amount of information to successfully upload an observation. Make sure you have your location services turned on when you're taking photos so you don't have to input the date and location for each observation. Trust me, it can be a pain. Just turn on your location services and life will be so much easier. When you're taking pictures of the species you're wanting to identify, please take pictures of the different parts of the plants or get different plant angles of the animal. The more pictures you have with different details, the more likely it is for you to be able to get your observation to be research grade. For example, take pictures of both like the top and undersides of the leaves. Some leaves have thorns underneath them, and a picture of just the top side of the plant would not be showing that feature, which helps identify the species. Another important thing to note is do not touch any plants you're unsure of what they are. A very good rule of thumb is if it's hairy or oily, do not touch it. Stinging nettle has hairs underneath the leaf, which causes skin irritation, and poison ivy has an oil on top of its leaves that causes rashes. So if you want to take a picture of the underside of your leaf, you can take your phone and use your selfie camera rather than flipping it over with your hands. And scale's another good thing to include in photos. You can put your hand beside a plant. So if there's, say for instance, my fireweed, and I could just put my hand beside it to like show the scale of the plant. And that way they don't think it's just an itty bitty flower. It's just a good way to kind of tell scale. And you can also, if you really want to, you can carry like a little mini ruler. And if you're doing like animal tracks, scale is super important. And even like measuring between the tracks, like to show like that aspect really helps with identifying different things. So once you have your pictures, you can follow these steps for each observation you upload. Step 1. Tap observe and pick the photos from your phone gallery, or you can even take pictures while in the app. I recommend against taking pictures through your app because it's easier to upload from your gallery with multiple photos. You can see in the image there's a box with a question mark saying unknown beside it. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but it's this one right here. And click it and the app will pop up with observation suggestions to look through. Step 2 is pick what species looks closest to your photos that you took. There is a side-by-side arrow which allows you to compare your picture to the suggestions. So again, if you can see, it is that little arrow. And step 3, like you want to make sure you have your location settings on so it puts the date and time. Otherwise, like I said, you'll need to manually enter it, and that isn't any fun. It's nice to just have it automatically done for you. There are additional details you may need to add depending on the observation. These next steps are optional, so adding notes is great when you have pictures that don't have enough detail. For example, if you have a silhouette of a bird, you can write down what colors it is. By adding colors, it helps people identify the bird for you. So if you take a picture and it's a black bird and you're like, hey, it has red on its wings, it's like, okay, well, that's a red-winged blackbird. So definitely helps when you can't capture any color in the photo because it's backlit, but the notes really help with that. And step 5, if you're taking pictures of plants or animals in your backyard and you do not want the location to be publicly seen, you can obscure your location visibility so people can't tell where you live when you upload observations from your backyard. This is also helpful if it's a rare species that you don't want people to come and harvest. iNaturalist will automatically obscure some species if they're rare to help protect them. Lastly, there's a box you can click if your observation is captive or cultivated. This means you grew it in your backyard or it's at a garden that would be considered cultivated. If you're in an indoor butterfly garden and there's some birds and butterflies you took pictures of, you would click captive because they're not released in the wild. This is very important because the species become casual grade and are not used in projects. Research projects specifically. So how to upload observations on the website. The website is super helpful for uploading multiple observations at once. This is how I do most of my uploads. So for uploading observations on the website, you need the same information you use on the app. When you upload the pictures to the website, you can drag and drop the photos into the same box when you have multiple pictures of the same plant or animal. The website's also helpful if you want to upload photos from a camera. The camera I use doesn't have a built-in GPS, so a trick I do to make my life easier is I take a picture with my location services turned on my phone. So I'm like, oh, if I get like a really good picture of a bird, I'm just going to take a picture on my phone with my location services of the bird. That's not great. But this way, when I upload it to the website, I can take the photo I took on my phone, and then I take the bird photo I took with the camera, and then I delete the phone picture, and it has the location services like all in for the time and the date. And it's so much easier. So you don't, I'm very against going in manually putting where everything is located. So that's just a little trick. And yeah, so I definitely recommend uploading your observations through the website if you have more than 5 at once. It will save you a lot of time because you can easily upload like 30 observations at once. One of my favorite things about exploring my observations on iNaturalist is seeing a map of all the different places I've gone to and uploaded observations at. Each of these red dots are different locations in BC I visited and uploaded at least one observation. It's a cool way to look back at like your past trips you've gone on. Each time you stop, if you just add like one little observation, you like start to dot all over the map and you're like, hey, look at all the places I've traveled. And sometimes it's fun to like use a filter, just like I used a filter for the frogs. You can do the same on your own observation map. And if I wanted to take a look at all the wildflowers I saw at Manning Park, I can create a boundary and then just look specifically at the wildflowers that I uploaded and go back through the little trip I took. Another way you can explore your observations is simply viewing all of them on your profile in order that you uploaded them. So you can see in this picture that all my observations were able to make it to research grade with the exception of the lodgepole pine because the image was too far away to confirm that it was that specific species. This lets me know for future observations where I went wrong and how I can improve with my observation being more likely to get to research grade. In the case of this lodgepole pine, I would need a closer up photo of the bark and needles to make it research grade. When you click on an individual observation you uploaded, it shows you where all the other observations of that specific species have been observed nearby. One sec. If I was a mallard enthusiast, I could go and try and find all the different locations the mallards might be located at. This photo was specifically taken at the Delta Bird Sanctuary, where there's so many mallards. The more observations of the same species in the same area makes it more likely for you to be able to find that species. However, some observations are obscured, like I mentioned earlier, for some specific species such as owls, so people don't harass them for photos. Luckily for mallard enthusiasts, the species is so common that it is rare to have it obscured. So by all means, find all the mallards. For my mallard observation, I can see that I can add annotations to it as well. And these annotations are a little bit different than the fireweed annotations because it's bird and not a plant. If there was only a feather present, I can just put the evidence of presence as a feather. However, since I do have a picture of the handsome little lad, I have selected organism. Since it's an adult male mallard, which I can tell by the coloring of its feathers, I'm able to put adult male in the annotations. We can also see that this observation made it to research grade because there was an additional 3 people who all agreed that it was a mallard. Lastly, you can see what projects this observation is in. The Metro Vancouver Regional District project automatically added this observation because it was within the boundary of the project. The second project this is in is the Métis Nation Citizen Science Project. Speaking of projects, this is our Métis Nation BC Citizen Science Project you can become a part of once you give us your cool username. All of the observations you upload in BC will be captured in this project once we manually put in your username. All of the red dots on the map are observations from Métis people who gave us their username. Your observations will be added to this map too. You can follow the project to become a member, which allows you to get updates from the journal postings. As you can see on this project, we have 2 postings about Earth Week and the ways you can get involved with our Earth Week project. Speaking of Earth Week, it is happening this month on Tuesday, April 22nd to Monday, April 28th. It's starting on a Tuesday because we're starting the week on Earth Day, which is April 22nd. For the Earth Week, we have a project that will capture all of your observations in the duration of this week. If you've given your username for our main project, we'll also add it to this event. Our goal is to do this event each year and hopefully see more and more observations from Métis people each year as the program continues to grow. You can also follow this project and become a member for updates. We'll be sharing different walks on the journal for you to attend for which city nature challenge area you live in. We're only hosting one walk, and it's at Rocky Point on Saturday, April 26th. And if you cannot attend that walk, we encourage you to look up what other walks might be in your area. Marcy for attending this presentation. I can now answer your questions.